Hello, this is David Baumblatt from Terabith Leadership. Today, we are going to be talking about the upcoming Civil War, World War. Now, I worded it like that with Civil War and World War because it's probably a good chance that America, meaning the government, is going to attempt to avoid a civil war by getting us into a world war. Now, for all those who think this is hyperbolic talk, we just have to look at the facts. First of all, in terms of civil war, we've already been in a civil war in America once. Well, what is to say we're not going to get another one? World wars, the First World War was a great war to end all wars. That didn't happen. Two world wars, who says a third's not going to come? So based upon facts and history, we know that the thought of a civil war and or a World War III, it's absolutely possible. And I think a lot of Americans now feel every year, every day, that this system of America is falling apart. It's not working. And believe it or not, people are starting to realize too that America, who's always been voiced as the good guy, is turning more and more into the bully. Greenland's a great example. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but we talked about NATO. NATO definitely needs to be changed. It's unfair to America, our finances, but how we spoke with Greenland and our allies, that's not who we are. It's just not who we are at all. So the point is the world is changing. We know that. And I think a lot of Americans know that there's going to be a big change. They're just worried about when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and how it's going to affect us. But we know that in America, our lives are getting worse and worse. Our financial system's getting worse. Our freedoms go on and on. Who's to blame for that? You know, we're Americans. What do we always say? If something's wrong in your life, like my life, who is ultimately to blame for my life? Myself. Ultimately, myself is to blame. It's a very noble American ideology that is take responsibility. So we know that. Understand there's people and things and systems that do the wrong thing, and you can definitely be wrong. Hence, that's what a whistleblower is all about. But ultimately, from a sense of leadership, we still want to take responsibility. So just like we say, you are ultimately responsible for your life. Who's ultimately responsible for America? Americans, the American government. So if the American system is not working, if the American people are suffering, if the country's not doing well, what type of ideology is that now to blame other countries? And what did I say? The biggest threat, the biggest enemy, the biggest entity that is destroying the Christian faith, the European people, and our freedoms are domestic. It's by far, it's not even close. So as this system gets worse and worse and worse, our government is going to want to blame more and more of a foreign entity. We've seen it. It always happens. But we Americans know that probably the number one element to blame for America's downfall is probably America. And who betrayed us? Well, the American corporations and the American government would start there, but it could be our fellow American citizens. What do I mean by that? Well, let's go. I'm going to look in. We're going to do we'll do a quick news here on X, and then we'll go into the program. But let's just look at what's happening here. Let me show it here. So I think we're going to go on news. So I don't know if you know this guy, Cat Turd. He's on X. He's a major MAGA figure. And this is what I wrote. I said, MAGA, it's turned into a complete joke. We know that. Again, I still believe Donald Trump is the best president in my life. I'm not going to the Democrats, but I think more people are just, this system's not working. So just something here like a joke. He's like, Cat Turd says, hey, is anyone in the Epstein files? Not me. Well, I don't know if this is legitimate or not, but supposedly Cat Turd's in it. Okay, interesting. So here we come again. It just shows kind of how the system's falling apart. So this guy, I don't know if you know this guy, Mike Davis. I don't know. He's some type of lawyer. He thinks he's a MAGA conservative. I don't think Mikey Boy has ever served in the military. Mike blocked me on my earlier accounts. Why? I don't know. It's an interesting question. I'm sure Mike walks around and says he supports military veterans. Anyway, he's blocked me again. But it's just interesting. I mean, here you have a military veteran saying, I have government corruption report. I need help. This is a person who blocked. Let Mike serve in the military. When World War III comes, let Mike volunteer or get drafted to serve. But this is what I'm telling you about the enemies from within. These are Mike would probably be one of the poster boys for MAGA. These are my leaders. Thanks, Mike, for blocking me. You serve in the military, Mike. Have fun. Then we're going to come on to this tab here. I say, whether you like it or not, MAGA will split. I think I said, yeah. If you are MAGA and you don't support the full disclosure of the Epstein files, I don't know what you're really standing for. Let's see what she has to say here. Not like I'm a supporter of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think I am. I guess so. I don't know enough about her, but she is speaking truth in certain a lot of these things.
President Trump. And I know that fight to release the Epstein files came directly from President Trump. And I know a lot of people have a hard time with that, but that is the truth. He fought the hardest to stop these files from being released.
Well, that's interesting. I say again, if you're Donald Trump, I don't know what is going on with these Epstein files, but we know they should be released. What I want to do now is this. We're going to talk about World War III and stuff, and yeah, we're going to talk about China. But something happened to me today on X that I truly believe is biblical in nature. Let me make sure we're here. And let me just call that I believe it's biblical in nature, something bigger, something, again, sort of like a World War III, the end of humanity, that happened right here on X. And I want you to say, I've been censored on so many platforms, to include X, but I'm currently live streaming on 3 platforms: X, YouTube, and Rumble. But let's just look at X. X, and a lot of the MAGA people are like, yeah, Elon Musk, man, he's our guy. I don't know. I'm on the fence with Elon Musk. Again, this is a guy who's suspended me 3 times on X for what? But when you are an American citizen, we have to depend on a multi-billionaire guy named Elon Musk to give us freedom of speech. This is a public platform by now, people. This is publicly, politically, fully aligned. Elon Musk is fully aligned in our government. So the freedom of speech, the First Amendment, should apply to X, and it doesn't for me. But if we're going to live in a society where we have to depend on this guy, Elon Musk and X, to give us our free speech, the system's already done. But this happened to me on X. So I want you to bring that in terms of who we are as humanity. Who are we depending on here? Where are our freedoms? What happened to our Christianity, our European people, our culture, our freedoms? And like I said, we're going to get into World War III, but I really think what happened to me on X here, it's biblical in nature. Let's see. I'm going to explain this. We're going to go through it here. Let me think. So let me go through. So the first thing is, I hope you see that this is a post I put a lot. Military veteran. I'm a military veteran requesting for help. Just please repost. You don't have to give any money. Just repost. Very simple. So it started out with this woman, and notice she says conservative woman. That means, I don't know, she's MAGA, she's conservative. I'm going to assume she says that she always likes to say she backs the military veteran, supports them. But she says, Grok, who's this guy on the FBI watch list? Now, she could just press repost, but no, she doesn't press repost. She says Grok. And then I reply. I think Grok responded to like, Grok gave the typical answer. I don't know if I got into it, but then I replied. I said, Grok, why does this woman says she's conservative and not support a military veteran by simply reposting? Why does she think military veterans? So in the beginning, this is about me and whoever this woman is, conservative woman. So again, conservative woman, thank you for your support. I know you're going to go around and thank all military veterans for your support. It'd be nice if you could repost though. That would be really nice. But watch this. Now it gets into Grok. Now this is, I want to emphasize this here, what's going on. Grok is AI. We know that. This is whatever computer. And I remember when I was in high school, and again, I'm not a Bible scholar. I've never said that. But when I was in high school, I had one of my classmates who was a biblical scholar, and he talked about the mark of the beast. Now, when I went to school, older generation, we didn't even have cell phones. We didn't have computers. So when he started talking about this technology in your head or your hand, it sounded far off. I was like, what? You really think that? Well, I think we know now the way technology is going, that's a very probability. We're talking biblical prophecies here. So we're going to go back to Grok, but I just want you to know, here I am, a human being, unless you need evidence, like Grok is saying, everything's evidence. And I'm talking to someone from AI here, Grok. Let's just go on it. But this is a scary thing about possibly where we're going. So anyway, I go to Grok. I want to speed this up, but it's important. I can't speak for him. And I said this, I hopefully you see, I said, Grok, are you an American patriot? Meaning if you do it, you're not going to quibble with this. You know the answer. The answer is to support a military veteran and repost. I'm not asking for money. If you are, then you know exactly what it is. You can also share your boss. This is what Grok writes. As an AI, I am not human or American. Now that's good. I'm glad Grok said that. And I think that's very key for us to know. Then he says, but I appreciate values of freedom and truth and service that patriots embody. And then he goes on to this and that, which I replied, you're AI. You have no appreciation or understanding of these emotional values. Only humans can. Stop lying, Grok. This is why America will collapse. And before we get into the next segment, you have to understand, here I am. I'm a real person, and I'm, you could say, arguing. I'm having a debate. I'm having a dialogue with this artificial intelligence. Right there should make you start wondering where this world is going to. Now, some people might say, this is great. This is technological. This is where we should go. And I'm a big believer. I think you can't stop technology. Like I think maybe you can't stop biblical philosophy or prophecies. But here we go. And he says, Grok says, I understand your point. I am AI without personal emotions or experiences. My appreciation comes from analyzing human data or values like freedom. I'm not lying. I base my responses on verified. Regarding your claims, and then it doesn't matter after that. I mean, we could end it. But what I'm just saying to you is, what was that conversation with me and Grok? Does that make you feel comfortable? Meaning, I think technology is sort of like a gun. It's got two sides. And I do believe it's almost impossible for us to stop human exploration, scientific study, technology. I think it is what it is, and it's just where we're going. And hopefully it will overall be positive, but it could be dangerous. And I think these prophecies will probably come true. Now, does this technology also align to World War III? I think absolutely. I think that's where we're going. Because if there's two trends that continue to go, two trends are unstoppable. One, I'm a big believer in nationalism, but what trend is over? It's globalism. It's becoming more and more of a global world, which means conflict. What else is, as much as I cherish nature, what is also a trend that's unstoppable? Technology. So globalism and technology continue to seem to be an unstoppable trend. And because those two trends, which go into conflict with nationalism and nature, but they're unstoppable. And what will they lead to? They're going to lead to World War III. And sometimes it might just be no one's really good or bad. It just is what it is. I think it could be in human nature. Maybe within ourselves is the good and the evil within ourselves. And that is mankind. We are a war-fighting species. Hopefully we could be also a loving and caring species, but war's in our blood. It's in our DNA. That maybe it just is what it is. And I think a lot of Americans feel that way, that the country's falling, the empire's falling, but it is what it is, and war's going to come. It's going to come. We'll just share one more thing here. Let me share a couple things, but one thing we will share is in terms of this feeling like, is war coming? Let me share the, where the hell is share screen right here. So this is just an interesting document. I put this on the comments here. This is the link to it. Western countries see World War III coming. Absolutely. You're seeing it here. Let me go in here. And they're talking, this is obviously from a NATO standpoint, but across all 5 countries polled, US, Canada, UK, France, and Germany, vast majority of respondents think the world is becoming more dangerous. I mean, I think most of us would agree. We probably would have said this 10 years ago. Let me see if, yeah, let me push this here. Maybe it's better. Anyway, I think many of us would have said 10 years ago, this is already thinking. Again, when I left America in 2010, I knew something was big's going to happen. Voters are polling, they're predicting conflict. You could go down and read this. We won't go into it too much, but it's basically, you could tell the world is changing. And I think part of the reason the world is changing, it's human nature, and things are going to collision. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to focus a lot on China, because I'm a China, that's my expertise in China. And I did say, and I wrote this in the book, and even during the war on terror, when I was in the FBI, I do believe, and sometimes I use the word threat. It might not even be threat. I would say adversary is China. Meaning the biggest foreign threat of America, it would be China. But I go back. The biggest threat to America, did I say that right? The biggest foreign threat to America is China. But the biggest threat to America, it's domestic. It's the globalist government, the globalist corporations. But if you want to go outside of America, I was about to say Israel. I don't know. Israel does also have an undue influence on America. It's a very strange relationship. Nobody seems to want to talk about it, but they would be a foreign influence. But I'm still sticking where I've, in terms of China building up to a military and economic superpower. It's a threat. We're going to go into that, but there's some intricacies that Americans, we are not going to win because our ideology, just to show you, I want to do a short thing. We have to talk about this, but I've always said this, World War II is going to come back to us. I guess you could say World War III, but I'm talking about political ideologies. There were three ideologies that were being fought in World War II. We had the communist Soviet Union, not a very good ideology, doesn't have a good track record, communism. Then we had Nazi National Socialism, the Nazis under the Germans, and we view that as the most evil political ideology. Technically, we look at that as even worse than communism. Doesn't make any sense. That's the ideology that China has adopted under Deng Xiaoping. They moved from communist Mao into Deng Xiaoping, but that's currently China. We like to say communism, it's national socialism or fascism, but we look at that as evil. Then we had ours, which would be like a liberal democracy, which at one time was good. It's gotten too liberal, it's gotten too globalist. So these ideologies are going to come back to us. And why am I saying that? Because we have been brainwashed in America to believe anything of nationalism, of fascism, of national socialism is the most evil political ideology on earth. Well, good luck. I mean, it's like talking to an alcoholic and you're trying to tell him that his worst problem is alcohol, and he refuses to think that alcohol is his problem. And it's like, that's your biggest problem. But we refuse to look at national as other countries adopt nationalism around the world more and more. The non-Western, that's why they're winning, is because they adopted nationalism. In our mind, we're like, that is the most evil political ideology ever. How can you convince us? You're not going to convince Americans until they get, hit in the head, and then they start realizing. But let's go some videos here so explain one part on this. Let me go, but we have to tackle the China one. And I want to go with this one first, because this really hits it.
Concerned about is the CCP.
Okay, so this is Sean Ryan. And let me do here. Now, the guy he's interviewing is, I don't remember, he's currently the national, he was a congressman. What the hell is this guy? Not Walsh, Congressman Walsh. So congressman from Florida, he's the former national security advisor. Now he's, I guess, part of the United Nations, something like that. And I've said many times, our United States government, considering China experts, and it is shallow beyond belief. FBI, CIA, military, state, they don't get China. I know you believe that as a taxpayer, like, our government is filled with China. They're not. They don't get it. And I'm going to look at, so this person is former Green Beret national security advisor. Now, I guess he would be considered, is he the U.S. ambassador for the UN? So you would think this guy's on it. Now, he's a moron. So let's just do a little snippet on what he thinks about this. And I think it's very important. Let me bring this down and let's go.
Mm-hmm. Why is that? Not the amazing, wonderful Chinese people.
Okay, so we have to stop it right there. I got to bring this up. So hopefully you get to Sean Ryan, because the whole clip is like 2 hours. We're not going to do the whole clip. I just want to get to the China. But Sean Ryan now is talking about China. And what does this guy Walsh say immediately? He says the same thing people are pre-programmed to say in America, that the Chinese government is the enemy. The Chinese government is a problem, but not the Chinese people. The Chinese people are good. And it's almost like a cuck reaction. What have I said? This is not negative. This is not positive. They're not that much different, though. They're not that much different. The Chinese people and the Chinese government are not that much different. But I emphasize that's not a negative or a positive comment. It's just more factual. They're much closer than you think. But let's go with him. So right off the bat, he's either ignorant, he doesn't get China, he knows basically nothing about China except the typical briefings he's getting in the government, or he's just regurgitating what he was told to say.
Chinese culture. But we have never faced an adversary not the Soviet Union, not Germany, Japan, never faced an adversary with rival economic might that openly talks about surpassing us technologically.
Now, I just want to bring this up. It's like, where were you during the war on terror? Now, when I was in the FBI, I really should tell stories in my FBI time when I was with the war on terror. When I was in the FBI, and I've said this many times, within the first year of the FBI, I had said, because remember, I joined in 2004, so the war on terror was the number one. And within 1 year in the FBI, I realized that the so-called threat from ISIS, the Taliban, you've seen prior videos where we had General Petraeus, the former CIA, congratulating the current president of Syria, a former ISIS wanted under the FBI, as, wow, you're such a great leader. Meaning the whole war on terror was a joke. It was a money-making machine for the military. It was a complete joke. And I had said that if we are more concerned with national security, that's what the FBI focuses on, China is a much bigger threat than this war on terror with terrorism. Of course, they didn't listen to me. You don't know what you're talking about, but it's like, where were we then? So now they're coming around. And this is part about leadership. You have to be able to, truth be told, predict the future through strategy. And what's my prediction also? Well, we're going to go to civil war. Or America's going to shift to a World War III to sort of pivot away from a civil war. But here's this guy, National Security Advisor. I don't know, dude, where have you been for 20 years? This is all, meaning if you would have interviewed this guy 20 years ago, he would have been like, nah, China's not a big deal. The Taliban, that's what we got to do. Because that's where he made his money on the Green Berets. They were in like special operations, Iraq, and it was a complete joke. I mean, we lost the war. I mean, are you, as an American, are you worried about the Taliban today? So you still have to ask yourself what I've kept saying. They're absolutely morons in America or in the government. I'm not saying the private sector. You will find many private sector people that are much smarter than me on China, not government, because you have to use common sense. Excuse me, former national security advisor. If China was such a big threat, then why were we on this years ago? Well, because back then the Taliban was a bigger threat than China. Well, we lost. I don't want to delve too much in it, but we have to look back to study. We have to understand the mistakes. And when you understand the mistakes, you probably should know who called the right shots and who called the bad shots. Whoever called the bad shots probably not listen to them anymore. But anyway, let's keep going with Mikey.
That is building ships at a rate of 3 to 5 to 1. You could fit every shipyard in the United States inside China's one largest shipyard. We have 1 to 2% of shipbuilding.
Yeah,
China's
over 50%,
and the rest is South Korea and Japan, right? That is increasingly dominating, not dominating, but challenging us in space. That intends to put.
So, and again, I'm commenting. He's saying the truth. China is building the way China views it as this. But you have to put themselves in their shoes in almost all countries. Countries are tired of America being the boss. And guess who else is tired of it? Our own allies in Europe. They're tired of it. So do I believe China is trying to take over America? No. Give it time. You'll see the videos on who's got the right ideology. As soon as we're done with this clip, you'll see it. But is China growing to be more powerful military, political, economically, and they want to kick America out of Asia? Yeah, they're doing it, and they'll probably win. There could be another element with Japan, and I'm in favor of Japan building up militarily. But you do have to ask yourself, as American citizens, we're tired of the American government controlling us. They're taking away our freedoms. Same thing happens throughout the world. America is the boss. Countries are just tired of America being the boss. So for that, there's nothing evil about it. They're just tired of taking orders from the American empire. I can't blame them on that.
A station on the moon, the ultimate high ground, by the end of this decade. Thank God for Jared Isaacman and the renewed push. I touched Cape Canaveral in my old congressional district.
Also, I do have to know, I contacted him many times. This guy's a former military veteran. I'm a military veteran. Government corruption. Notice I keep saying the Civil War, how America is going to fall from within. I don't know. A good question is, hey, Mikey, this guy David reached out to you. Why didn't you respond? You've leached off the American taxpayer your whole life. In the military, you've leached off the American taxpayer. As a congressman, you've leached off the taxpayer. In the Trump administration, you've leached off the taxpayer. It means you have a duty. This is not a personal option. You have someone with government to corruption report, a military veteran. Why wouldn't you help that person out? Why wouldn't you do your duty? Look at that microcosm, then look at the bigger one. If he doesn't care about me, do you think he's not going to care about you? Do you see what I'm getting about and how America's going to fall from within? These people are scumbags. You think Mikey's doing a good job? I don't know. How did we do in Afghanistan? How are we doing in Iraq? Look what Mikey says about the Chinese. I'm going to show what a moron he is now. But remember what he said. He's got no problem with the Chinese people. He loves them because his biggest fear is being called a racist. So he loves Chinese people. He loves to eat Chinese food every day, and he likes to study Taoism, and he likes to have sex with Chinese girls. He loves them. It's just the Chinese government. That's the only thing he's got. But other than that, just don't call Mikey a racist. This is our ideology we have in America.
And, in 2018, the Chinese launched more into space than us and the rest of the world combined. By last year, SpaceX was launching more than the rest of the world combined. That's American ingenuity, right? At its best. So no other adversary has ever had the ability to challenge us in all of those domains. Add cyber to that, and has such an aggressive influence operation here at home, in academia, through Confucius Institutes. Many of these Chinese students are wonderful young people, but if their families...
Remember, these Chinese students, remember what Mikey said, these Chinese students are wonderful people. And I'm sure Mikey wants to open with open arms so they could become American citizen. That's what Mikey says. Remember, Mikey says Chinese people good, Chinese government bad. And that's what he's regurgitated by the American government. That's what he was told to say by the global corporations. You'll get it on the next clip what I'm saying. But that's Mikey. Remember, this guy's the former national security advisor. This is not some yo-yo. But Mikey has no time for me, though. I mean, I'm a military veteran. I've got government corruption report. He's got no time for me. But he loves Chinese citizens.
Threatened at home. They don't have a lot of choice. And it's a challenge unlike any we've ever faced. Now, ultimately, I'm convinced we will prevail.
I don't know, Mikey. Who are we?
It's a real competition.
How close is it?
It's close. So now remember, Mikey, what he said about that? Let's go to this right here. This is it's pretty amazing. I just found this and I'm thinking, so remember, before I show this, my view is this. It's very simple, but it's politically incorrect. I don't believe China is the enemy, but I've said many times, they do what they got to do. We do what we got to do. And we work as best we can diplomatically because there's going to be conflict. It always has in human nature. But we do have to draw the line. The reason we can't draw the line is in China, they draw the line very fast. Who's Chinese and who's not? Mikey has been pre-programmed by the globalists. And who is an American? Everyone is an American. So if you really look at who's communist, it's not China. China is fascism. We are communists. Because if you say that everyone can be an American, that America belongs to everyone in the world, as long as you're a good person, whatever the hell that means, you can be American. You're communist. That's fine. I mean, as long as you're happy with being a commie, you're communist. So remember Mikey, he thinks Chinese nationals are good, but Chinese government's bad. And he's our national security advisor. If I was our national security advisor, guess what I'd be thinking about? That would be one of the biggest priorities from a defensive posture, because I don't want to get us in war. So I'm not interested in offense, though we have to be prepared. But we definitely need to get heavy with defense. This is FBI 101. So let's just take a look at this. I found this pretty interesting. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this. Okay, let me just say this. This guy name is Luo Ji, that's the Chinese name. His name is Rocky. Rocky is a Chinese national that's in the United States Army. And look at his page. I've been censored. I mean, his page is, geez, he's almost 500,000 subscribers. Interesting page, by the way. And as Americans, we think this is just dandy because we're communists. And as good communists, we believe diversity is our strength. Now, if you are an American, you can never join the Chinese military because I think the Chinese are smart. And this goes with other countries, non-Western countries. But we think it's just dandy because remember Mikey, the national security advisor, who's basically has a total traitor to help out fellow military veterans and do his duty with government corruptions. Mikey thinks the problem is with the Chinese government, not the Chinese people. So Mikey's pretty interesting. Let's just do a quick video. Hey, Shane, I see you here. Let's do a quick video on Rocky here that I thought was pretty interesting here. Now, one thing I want to defend, I'm actually going to defend this guy, Rocky, and I've said many times, I don't think the problem is him. I've always said too, like these immigrants, my problem, it's like the same. Americans didn't get betrayed by the Chinese, by the Mexicans. Like when I see Mexicans sneaking into America illegally, I don't really blame them. We blame our own government. So number one, if I was the national security advisor, one, no foreign nationals, particularly a Chinese national, will be able to join the United States military or join any type of U.S. government entity. Wouldn't that be a good step? But Mikey would disagree with me because he'd say, David, the problem is the government, not the Chinese people. All right, let's just go fast over this and see what this is.
好，乖乖，爸爸，爸爸。 真棒！爸爸明天回来，所以你今天晚上睡觉的时候乖乖好吗？不要哭哭好吗？
So this is his Chinese family. He's pumping out a lot of kids. Good for him, pumping out a lot of kids on American soil.
弟弟们也不要哭哭好吗？好了。
And I should also say, when he pumps out these American kids on American soil, your tax money, because again, he's in the U.S. military, so his paycheck comes from your tax money. Don't you feel good? But remember, we're communist Americans. And what does that mean? We have no problem with the good Chinese people, Indian people, Mexican people. They are all welcome in America. We just have a problem with their government. Why? I don't know. That's just how we're programmed to say, because we don't want to be racist. That's the key. Don't be racist. Rule number one in America. The country could fall apart. Just don't be racist.
爸爸得走了哈。拜。又来到我最近比较常来的地方。
He's going to the Army.
Army strong.
Isn't this great? Isn't this what America was built by immigrants? Just remember that.
走。今天是个大日子。
Awesome, man. Not only is Rocky going to join the military, we got other Chinese in the military. This is awesome because remember, the color of your skin is nothing but racism. It's all about what's in the character of your heart. Remember, Mikey, this is the national security advisor you just talked to. Mikey thinks this is just dandy. Remember, these are not the Chinese government. These are Chinese people. So they're just like me or you, man. Red, white, and blue inside. That's good communist ideology.
我得先检查一下你的身上随身带的物品，确认你没有任何违禁物品。
好，
好吧，行，
好，
好，可以全部都收起来了，就装包。
收起来，我们再谈论其他的。
今天和明。
Also, I find it that I mean you don't have to speak the language. This is from Intelligence 101. You don't have to speak the language. I'm trying. If you're going to be at the expert level, you have to speak the language. You have to speak the language. And this is what I'll do other videos, but like even Mikey, the national security, you have no clue the dearth of expertise. The Chinese, it's very difficult to say I'm a China expert in the government and I don't speak the Chinese language. When you speak the language, you understand all the nuances. But it's just, I'm still amazed that we have these yo-yos in our government talking about China. And I'm thinking, this country, give it time. We're going to end up going to war, and it's going to be like the other wars we always get into. Your tax money is going to go up, and the war is not going to come out like you want.
明天就是你的2天的 maps processing。
对，
这2天就是
We're not going to go through the whole thing because I know they're speaking Chinese, you don't understand it, but we're just going to go. But this is the concept here. Not only is the recruiter, so this is an active duty military guy who's Chinese, but the person who's joining the military is also Chinese. And according to our government and our communist ideology, this is okay because we think diversity is our strength.
你正式去，
不是每个这个观众朋友们的情况。
没有，我的目标是很明确的。我
More Chinese in the military.
想当兵，然后拿了美国护照，更有助于我做这个油管。
对对对，
你拿了美国护照，你看你去哪里都
方便。
So what he's saying in Chinese, this is the guy in the green. He's like, I joined the military to get an American citizenship even faster. I would say from a national security standpoint, no foreign citizens can join the U.S. military. But I've said this before. The reason they're doing this is a lot of American men don't want to join the military. And I get it. I wouldn't die for this corrupt government. So like a corporation, what does a corporation do? They outsource, just like they outsource the factories, outsource the cheap Mexican labor. They outsource to foreign nationals who are willing to join the military. Especially me, the way I've been treated as a military veteran asking for help, it's amazing. I don't know why anyone would join the military now unless it's just purely the money.
地跑是吧？
对对，就我的话题就会稍微广一点了。
对对对对，就体验吧。
体验真的
能否最终加入美军？一个就是最终的考试以及体检。
I know you don't understand.
是这样，我在这个视频。
What he's doing is he's educating his obviously. Who do you think he's talking to, people? He's talking to a Chinese audience, also back in China. Again, this is what a betrayal it is. I've been censored and suspended on my first YouTube channel, and I'm an American citizen born and raised. This guy's a Chinese person with 500,000 subscribers, and then he's talking back to China. And this company called YouTube is an American company. Do you see where this thing is going? It's not going to work, people. It's going to get worse. Like what type of American man, when we talk about the word patriotism in America, what does that mean anymore? We don't even know what it means anymore. These corporations are not very patriotic.
经理呢会把今天讲的内容保留一小吗？
I want to get to the end.
来的有点频繁啊，这个服务挺周到。
Give me a second and I'll let them know about the swearing ceremony.
I just thought this would be good. This is where he gets sworn in by some white dude.
Small arms.
Yeah.
Repair maintainer. So, okay. Now, you know the two things? You say your full name when I say it?
Yeah.
And you're saying I solemnly swear, right?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Raise your right arm. Repeat after me. I state your name.
And the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its...
I think they dubbed this because he's probably my guess is they dubbed this like this because if you heard him speak English, it's going to be so choppy, like chop, chop, suey, that you're like, what the hell's our country coming to anymore? Who's an American anymore? Because that's what the cuck MAGA people always say. As long as you speak English, that's about the only criteria it seems to be an American. That's their version of integration. They're like, well, as long as they integrate, as long as they assimilate. And I've always said, like, they have to become Christians? No. Like, they have to be of the European ethnicity? No, that's racist. Then, I don't know, what's American culture? Speak English. Okay, I guess that's it. So they don't want to do this because they're going to realize his English sucks. So even the MAGA people would be like, oh, that's not good. But that was my assumption why now they're blanking this out.
Held off and cages out and strong. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
According to regulations.
According to the regulations.
And.
Okay, so I'm wrong. I mean, it sounds like he's speaking good English. Not like I changed my opinion, though. I still don't think he's in it, but it sounds like he could speak pretty good English.
And the uniform code.
And the uniform code.
Of military justice.
Of the military justice.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Well, not that, but it's just turning into a joke in America now. just send that fucker to West Point. Let him be the next 4-star general and have fun.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, you want some pictures?
So look at the white guy. He's the typical, also this white guy, the typical MAGA. He's like, man, we're brothers. Don't you think about it? If we go to war with China, how confident would you be if the director of the FBI, the director of the CIA, the Secretary of Defense were Chinese Americans, right? But they're Americans. Well, they're Chinese, but don't be racist. Really? You don't have any problem with that? I think you're a moron. But it's an interesting question. So if we go to war with China and our generals and intelligence are Chinese Americans, is there a problem? If you're the typical MAGA person, you say, absolutely not, man, because race doesn't matter. If you're a person with common sense, you'd say, oh yeah, we got a major problem. But that's what MAGA is. Remember, don't be a racist.
Yes, of course.
Okay, here we go.
The future of America.
哇，大功告成啊！
大功告成，什么感觉？
All right, let me go here. We're going to do something. Well, it's actually
Things
a
in
joke.
bite-sized chunks, right?
Okay, we're going to this other thing. Now, this guy is a former CIA guy. I'm telling you, you have no clue. The CIA, I work with the CIA. These people are morons too. The best and the brightest are not in the government. And especially when it came to China, these people were horrible. I mean, I've dedicated my life to learning about China, but this CIA guy and this guy who's being interviewed, he looks like a mix. Just between you and I, he looks like, whatever. He's got a Chinese mom, a white dad. He looks like a mix. And I've always said, be very careful of the mix. They are the most dangerous. And I would have more faith dealing with a full-blooded Chinese person than the mixed. The mixed are the most dangerous people to have. So anyway, we've got this report and we've got this ex-CIA agent here, and they're talking about China, basically morons. But we'll hear what they say.
So they look at this focus on Iran right now, and they imagine it's the U.S. versus Iran, right? That's all it is, and it's happening in a bubble. But on a larger geopolitical stage, if you could talk to us about, and I know this is kind of a broad, wide-ranging playing field here, but if you could talk to us initially about the relationship between China and Iran.
We're going to skip. It's just retarded. Now, there obviously is a relationship between. Let me do this. I want to get to the part that gets interesting. But yes, China has an alliance with Iran. They have an alliance with Russia. These alliances are not as close as you think. I mean, even our alliance with NATO. I mean, obviously, would even China join in? But the point is I want to get them when they start talking about China. But yeah, is China aligned with Iran? Yes, there's no doubt there's an alliance. How strong is it? I don't know. You'd be surprised. Same thing with Venezuela. That thing fell apart. But here we go. Let me try to get to the part.
Yeah. So if you were to look at it through my eyes, I would say that Iran and the story with Iran and the possible overthrow of the regime there, it's just as much related to Cuba, where Trump is talking about regime change in Cuba. It's just as much related to Venezuela, where Trump just, took out Maduro, the leader of Venezuela. Just as much related to, I think, what we may see happening.
But you got to remember, when Trump starts getting on the war path here, what's the outside? If I were these other countries, I would get armed, meaning the next could be you. Meaning, if we're going to be an American empire and we're just going to go around bombing countries like we always do, then why wouldn't it surprise you that these other countries think we better get armed? The same thing we know as American citizens. If the American government took away our Second Amendment, took away our guns, it would be over for us. We know that. Meaning the best way to put a bully in their place is a sense of counterpower. So you could say U.S. citizens, our power is our guns, and these other countries, their power is through their military and their nuclear armaments. But it's just common sense. And people are like, why is China building up their military might? I don't know, because we're going around invading other countries and maybe they're worried about it. The same thing I would look at American citizen. If our government was so good, why do you need the Second Amendment? Why do you need guns? Because no, we don't trust our government. We need those guns as another line of protection.
Other countries, because basically Iran is one of the three main pillars of the Chinese Communist Party's like system of power.
That's not true at all. I don't know where this guy's getting that. I've never heard that before, what he's talking about. That meaning China and Iran have a relationship, but there's so many countries that have relationships with. I would probably put China and Russia, especially with the geopolitical nature of it, as a much closer. So this thing about Iran, I've never heard that it was such a important alliance to the structure of China. Let's hear what he says.
Globally. You could say that Russia, China, and Iran are like the three core ones. On the periphery, you actually have Brazil, Venezuela. You have, for example, North Korea, and of course, a few other proxy states. But those are kind of the main ones. This also ties into the Chinese Communist Party's war plans. And if you were
See, this is where he's talking out of his asshole. If I would think of any country with war plans, it would be America. Now, there's no doubt about China is building up their military. But if you look at who has the most offensive military posture, I mean, even the way we talked about Greenland, and people know me, I think NATO is a raw deal. We have to restructure NATO from a cost benefit for Americans. But the way we talk to our allies about Greenland, we would never take that in the reverse. If Canada talked to us about Alaska about that, we would go up in arms. So when he's talking about, when I think about a offensive military posture, America takes the lead by a mile. It's not even close.
ask me about what's really going on with, hey, why did Trump capture Maduro? Why is Trump talking about regime change possibly in Cuba or Iran? I would actually say this was about a possible war that was going to take place and maybe still may try to take place. But I think Trump might have actually checkmated them already. So this goes back to one of Xi Jinping's main advisors, a guy named Qin Canrong. And his plan for war for the Chinese Communist Party. This was public. This was before Russia invaded, Ukraine. This was before the October 7th attack on Israel. Xi Jinping's main advisor said that if China were to invade Taiwan and possibly start a war with the United States, they would effectively have to get America involved in multiple other wars.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with this, but we do have to look at our rhetoric. If we as Americans are going to use the Monroe Doctrine, basically what we did with Venezuela is we've invaded Venezuela illegally. But Trump is saying, hey, we have to protect our sphere of influence, like Cuba, I guess Greenland. But if you're going to agree with Trump on that logic, why would you not agree with China, with Taiwan? And I've said many things. My logic has been clear all along. When it comes to Israel, when it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to Taiwan, these are really not our wars. But does China want to take back Taiwan? Of course they do. That's obvious. But again, it sounds weird. It's like we've justified how we could take Venezuela, and we think it's some type of evil how China would take back Taiwan. I'd like to understand people's leadership philosophy on that. How is one right and the other wrong?
So he proposed a 4-war strategy. He said that America needs to be involved in 4 wars, so our military is divided enough where we wouldn't be able to fight and win. Basically on the analysis, America's military can fight 2 wars technically and still come out on top. So they wanted a war with Russia. They wanted a war with a terrorist organization, Iran being, of course, the puppeteer of that. They also wanted a war in Latin America. The original plan was actually to have Lula in Brazil to start a war. Lula got pushed out again, prosecuted, was in prison. He got brought back.
Yeah, we're going to go off and because we have other videos to do. This is why I'm going to just say he's off. Let me just make sure I take this here. Where the hell is this? This is why he's off on that. Generally speaking, what they want to do is this. China is beating America economically. They're beating now. There are, just like in America, there's factions of people, the war hawks. I'm not saying that. There is probably a war hawk faction with China, but you have to look at common sense. Economically, China has been beating America for decades. And guess what? They're going to continue to beat us. They don't want any wars. They want to keep the status quo. You got to remember, the last time China was in a war was in Vietnam. If any country is a war-beating country, it's America. I mean, we're always getting in wars. I mean, the whole world knows it. The next war is going to be started by America. We're always in wars. The last war that China was in, Vietnam, China actually has a pretty good track record of staying out of military conflicts. But back to the point, China has been beating America economically for decades. The majority opinion in China is keep the status quo. It's Americans, though, and Trump is right. He's like, we got to change the system. Now, I believe he ran on non-militarily, but we have to change the economic structure because China's winning because they're using something called nationalism. They're not using communism. But they know that China was like, if we just keep this economic system going, which means no wars, eventually China will continue to outcompete America and drive into prosperity and power. What they don't want to do is a war because I'm telling you, China is intimidated by America. Let's use common sense. Taiwan is right off the coast of China, off Fujian province. Look what we did with Venezuela. We basically invaded it. Why doesn't China do it? They're intimidated by the American military because the American military is all-encompassing. China does not. Now, China does believe, though, they have to build up their military. They are also predicting that sooner or later they will get in a war with America. Why? Because that's how America is. We all know it. America is a war path machine. We got out of Iraq. We got out of Afghanistan. We immediately want to get into Ukraine. Now we're going, I mean, who are you if you don't believe that America wants another war? So the part is, though, that the main doctrine in China is to keep as status quo as possible. The problem in America is if you think it's China that's screwing you out of your paycheck and your job, you're wrong. What was the title of my book? Patriots Betrayed. China never betrayed you in terms of taking away your job, taking away your paycheck, flooding this country with both illegal and legal immigrants. That was our government. I work for them. Look at. I work for Amazon. What did Amazon try to do continually? They made China as their number one producer. So all these Americans, because Americans, we don't have loyalty. All we want to do is buy cheap stuff. And guess what? Amazon worked with the Chinese government. Number one, the factory of the world. So really, if you look at why is America losing economically to China, I would say America is losing economically to China. It's not because China is better than us. China has embraced something called nationalism. We have embraced something called globalism. But if you're a globalist country, the winners are going to be the globalist government, the globalist managers, the globalist corporations. The workers, the people, you're going to lose because those factories are going to China. So again, this thought that most people have no understanding of China. Like I said, back to China, I'd be very cautious sometimes. No, I'm not going to say. I'll say maybe another time. But either way, the status quo for China is to keep the system going because China was winning economically, America was losing along with that, and keep it going. Trump came in and he's right. He's like, this system's not going to work. We have to change it. I didn't know he wanted to change it. What, we're going to invade other countries? Okay, so now the US dollar, we're going to have to print more and more money. Like all these Americans want to go in all these wars. Where's this money coming from? We'll see. Let's go to another one. But this is what I would say, too. This is another reason. If you're hard on China, then this is another area I would look at, but they don't want to do this.
American colleges and universities are the envy of the world. They have been for at least a century. Fun fact, America leads the world in Nobel Prizes for medicine, physics, math, chemistry, you name it. The United States has been awarded 71% of all Nobel Prizes, and the reason is simple. We have enjoyed the greatest higher education system in the world.
I got to do the story. Again, let's cut to the chase. Why are we allowing Chinese citizens to come to our universities to study, to learn, and leave? Because we are a globalist corporation. The universities, Harvard is turning less into and this is where I think Pete Hegseth, interesting enough, Pete and I went to the same program. He went to the Kennedy School of Government. If you remember, Pete Hegseth is no longer sending military officers to Harvard and these elite schools for college. He's right on that. These institutions are more businesses and less education. And because they're into business, hey, these Chinese students are a cash cow. And it's not just China, too. The Indians are flooded here. But wouldn't it be a good idea to not allow the Chinese to come here to study? Wouldn't that be really good for national security? Why wouldn't we want to do it? Because the universities have turned into globalist corporations. They don't care about me or you. They care about money. And those universities fund the politicians and this and that. But that would be because what I'm telling you is we have to take China on head on. But you could do it from a defensive posture. Defensive means let's fix America. Let's stop invading other countries. It's not going to help us, people. It's the same thing. It's like these dumb MAGA people. It reminds me of the war on terror. The same thing, the war on terror. Like, yeah, man, we got to go into Iraq. We have to go into Afghanistan. And for what, people? What did that accomplish? Oh, now we're going to have to go into Iran. Oh, have fun with that. Venezuela, let's see how that goes. But I would say from a good defensive posture is maybe not allow Chinese students to come study in America. Has anyone ever thought about that idea before?
Greatest education system the world has ever seen. And now the Chinese are getting all the benefits effectively for free. Wealthy Chinese are buying their way into our top universities and taking the spots of American students. Our friend Steve Cortez has a new documentary out on YouTube called China's College Takeover and joins us now. You know, Steve, I remember this time of year as a senior in high school sweating, literally, whether or not I was going to get into college and which one I did. You thought you were competing on a fair, somewhat fair field to get into college. Now I think what your documentary shows is that there is a large part of the class every year in any college that normal American kids don't have a chance at.
Yeah, that's right. And particularly from the selective schools. And I know from reading your excellent book that you went to Northwestern University, schools like Northwestern, like University of Illinois, which I profile in my documentary, these outstanding, highly selective schools, and almost all of them, there's at least.
Oh, don't fool yourself. These schools are very expensive. So you're getting there from three areas. We'll end it. There's so many videos. Let me just end this here, and so then I'll explain it. But I think we all get the point what he's talking about. But anyway, these schools, there's three ways these Chinese are going to get here. One, rich, because remember, when the Chinese go to these schools, they have to pay out-of-state tuition, foreign tuition, and they're not allowed to get any student loans, which I agree is a big topic in America. These American students take out student loans. They don't repay them. That's why these American colleges love Chinese students. They're not allowed to take out any loans. They have to pay foreign tuition or out-of-state tuition, the full price, and they get their money. But who pays for this money? It's usually in three areas. One, rich Chinese, or sometimes it's middle class, where these families will save a lot of money, send their kids. Two, it's the government. The government's going to sponsor them to come here for who knows what reasons. Or some of them do get good scholarships, which that makes you wonder, why are we giving America? Because some of these kids are really smart, which good for them. But why would we give American government scholarship money to foreigners and maybe not to American citizens? But there's a lot of money going into this stuff. So back on the same topic of Chinese, and again, we're going back on Civil War, World War III, and we're focusing a lot on China because that's my background. And I do think it's going to be a major nexus. But don't fool yourself. There are so many hotspots that's going to trigger this world. And I keep saying the biggest source is going to be domestic, like a civil war. But this administration, like Trump or whatever, they could pivot. When they feel a civil war is coming up, they're going to say, no, the problem is overseas. You've heard this before. And they're going to mobilize. And they're going to make the economy so bad where you're going to have to join the military to get money. And before you know it, we are in World War III. It could happen. Either way, we know something is going to happen. But let's go back to the China thing to just show where our policymakers don't know what they're doing.
Fox Business Alert: gold shimmering up to its highest close today in history.
This is going to be about the economy.
At $5,079.90 per troy ounce, just a day after blasting through $5,100 an ounce. Investors have been piling into the safe haven trade for a year now. The run-up in precious metals has gotten added rocket fuel since President Trump announced his widespread tariffs back in April. This week alone,
I keep saying the tariffs are really meant to protect the corporations, not the citizens. It is what it is. I'm not saying I'm against tariffs, but it's generally used to protect. And remember, America First is turning more and more into American corporations first, not the American people first.
Threaten new levies on Canadian and South Korean imports. A possible government shutdown is looming. The Senate has until midnight this Friday to pass the.
Tell me, are you like me? I could care less if it's the Democrats or the Republicans. Just shut the government down. What did I say too? You'll see a lot of these dumb FBI grifters, and they talk about how to change the government. What do I keep saying? Nothing you could do. Just start defunding it. But think about it yourself. How many people, whether you're on the right or the left, how does a government shut down to you? Great. I mean, how many people think, man, that the best thing we could do to our government is just start downsizing? But of course, now Trump is in the office, so he doesn't want to shut down. But either way, if you're a typical patriot, what does a government shutdown sound to you? Sounds pretty good to me.
$1.3 trillion spending package to fund the government. Senate Democrats are now saying they will not vote to fund the Department of Homeland Security without restrictions for immigration enforcement, which could torpedo the entire bill. And don't forget, the Federal Reserve meeting gets underway today. In this hour tomorrow, we will hear from Jerome Powell after the interest rate decision. Joining us now to weigh in, Euro-Pacific Asset Management Chief Economist and Market Strategist Peter Schiff, who's here in a Fox Business exclusive. His Euro-Pacific dividend income.
We got a lot of views. We're going to go. Peter Schiff talks about gold. This is what I didn't. Again, this also goes, we are a corporation, people. It's all about the money. Why are we going to get into wars? It's about the money. Why are we going to Iran? It really seems to be. That's also a little something different than China. China, it is about the people. I know they're brutal. It's a communist dictatorship in some ways, Mao Zedong. But China belongs to the Chinese people. In America, it really is all about the money. But anyway, going back to earlier topic, I never could understand this debate between crypto and gold and crypto and gold. Gold and silver, it's been around for thousands of years, people. Thousands upon thousands of years. It's possible that gold or silver may not be the best investment you make. I get that. But it's going to be very difficult for it to be a bad investment. And when rocky times are coming, and these times are going to be rocky, it's going to be a really good investment. Crypto, just be very careful. I'm not against crypto, but it's risky. But anyway, we just put that in because it does relate to where we're going. Let's go right now. I think this is back to the Chinese thing.
A suspected Chinese-linked biolab in the city.
Now, remember, we got Chinese biolabs in America. How did this Chinese person get to America? How did he? Well, and a lot of people think, David, he's working for the Chinese government. Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, then if the Chinese government is evil and the Chinese people are good, then how can we tell the difference? How can we tell the difference? What do we got to show their ID? Do you have a government ID badge? No. Okay, so you're a civilian. Then how do we tell the difference? If you disagree with me, let me just do this point. If you disagree with me and you think, David, the Chinese government is evil, but the Chinese people are good. I disagree with that, but okay, fine, we'll do that. So now you've got a China. How can you tell? Well, we're going to get the FBI on there and they're going to do due diligence and they're going to find if they're connected to the Chinese government, if they're working, they can't. But if they're just a regular civilian, that's fine. Good luck with that. Is it possible that this guy doing the biolabs was a regular Chinese civilian and then he got recruited by the Chinese guy? It's too complicated, people. Trust me, I was in the FBI. They're incompetent. It's not going to be. I would just say everything. I would not say anything negative. I'm saying Chinese government, you're great. Chinese people, you're great. But we are a European nation. It's called America. We are the descendants of Europeans. Possibly I could let some people in through good due diligence with the FBI, but you're not going to become a citizen. You can't become a citizen, and you're definitely not going to join anything in the government. Just something to think about.
Of Las Vegas, collecting more than 1,000 pieces of evidence, including biological materials and several vials of, quote, unknown liquids. SWAT teams serving a search warrant Saturday at a residence on a tip that a biolab was operating in the home. Authorities say there's no known threat to the public. In that locked garage, again, 1,000 pieces of evidence were collected with, quote, potential biological and hazardous materials confiscated. Maria, so ABC News is reporting it was a housekeeper that tipped them off. But look, there is a lot of speculation that what they found in there, things that were basically COVID-19.
Let's go to the next one. It's more retarded stuff.
They like to say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but maybe not, because it's not just strip clubs and drunken bachelor parties in Sin City. Turns out a secret Chinese biolab was operating there as well. A raid at the underground Chinese lab found that more than 1,000 samples of suspected biological agents were there.
Almost immediately, investigators observed multiple refrigerators, a freezer, and other laboratory-type equipment, along with numerous bottles and jugs containing unknown liquid substances.
What could go wrong? A former house.
Now, remember, you got to go back, too. Remember when, and again, this is not so much about the Democrats and the Republicans, though I do believe Trump is probably going to go stronger, with ICE and illegal immigrants. He's probably going to go stronger, which is good. But remember when Director Wray, we had the southern border open? We have to have these conversations, though. Who should be allowed to come to America? But I'm telling you, remember Trump did these, I guess they're called the $5 million permanent residence or visas or citizenships. The number one consumer, I told you about these other videos called EB5, which is called investment immigration into America, where basically you pay money and you get to go to America. So this idea of these Trump gold cards, Trump has pushed it up in price, so it's definitely more expensive because I think the price is $5 million. But it's already been there. It's called EB5. It's called investment immigration. Who has been the number one consumer of EB5? The Chinese. And you might say, what about the background check? It's not much, man. And if you're going to do it, you still have to have a lot of money. So the part is this is how America is. I mean, who is allowed to come to America? Who is an American? And I can tell you, if you have a talk with MAGA, they're going to be very nervous. Again, even a guy like Vivek Ramaswamy, which, okay, he's not a terrorist. I'm saying that. And he's a good businessman, whatever that means. But this is an American. This is our future. But we have to start asking these questions. We have Chinese that are running to be congressmen in America that were born in America, that were born in China, immigrated to America, became an American citizen. They're going to be Congress people, senators. I guess that's just dandy if you're MAGA because we're all red, white, and blue in here. If we cannot have these comments, but what we're talking about, we need to get in war with China, I would probably first clean house domestically first, clean house with the insider threat first, and then think about having another war campaign it's gonna be a wrecking ball anyway.
House cleaner was the one to sound the alarm. A house cleaner, she became deathly ill after noticing a foul chemical smell.
A house cleaner contracted by Solomon was told to shut and lock the door leading to the garage.
It's the same thing we're doing. It's another one. It's these Chinese biolabs. And the part is how did these Chinese people, and this is where the FBI you think would get in there. How did they come to America? Where are they? Were they born in America? Were they born in China? What are they doing there? How can we do this? But if we are going to live in a society that is more multicultural, multiracial, immigration, good luck. It's good luck because once you go to non-Western countries or Israel, you will realize that these non-immigration countries, it's very secure. It's very difficult to get in. And also, if you're a foreigner, you stick out. So we continue to think that being an American is anybody and anyone that I guess pays taxes. As long as you can financially contribute, that's fine. It's going to be dangerous. Let's see the last thing. Shane's talking about precious metals. I think personally, precious metals are going to be a very, very good investment. Why? Because as chaotic times come, the title of this video, Civil War, World War III, we all know this. This is not hyperbolic talk anymore. If you really don't believe a possible Civil War or World War III are coming, you're crazy. And think about America. In Trump's term, what have we done? Venezuela? That was not just a law enforcement operation. It's an invasion. We're basically invading Venezuela. Let's see how that goes. I think it's going to be horrible. The way we're threatening Greenland, that's wacky because we're really upsetting and breaking the bonds with our European allies. Again, we shouldn't be paying our European allies for national security. They should pay for it. But we still should have very good alliances. The system's going to get worse. Let's do this last video here.
I'm national correspondent Kayla Gaskins on Capitol Hill. The national debt is climbing at a staggering pace. A new congressional report shows the debt grows by more than $6 billion a day.
And just remember, all these people that you want to go to Iraq, like Americans are quick to say, yeah, let's go in these wars. Who's paying for this stuff? It's going to be your taxes, or that dollar is going to get printed. And then we're going to go to inflation. It's going to happen.
National debt continues ticking in the wrong direction, now on track to hit the $39 trillion mark by April 12th. New data from congressional Republicans shows the debt increases on average $6.43 billion per day. Interest payments on the debt consume about 13% of the entire federal budget. Government watchdogs say this path is not sustainable.
That number just...
And for all those who thought Donald Trump was going to come in here and reduce the budget, clean up, I don't think he is. I mean, he took he's taken the military budget from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion. I'd say, Donald Trump, if you're so much into the military, why don't you take care of military veterans who served? Like, why am I not even welcome back in America? It's not going to work. But Donald Trump, man, he is spending. I think what Donald Trump is probably planning is he's probably made more money off the White House, along with Melania Trump, who I consider many times a prostitute. If you go back in her background, I don't consider her like a lot of the MAGA people, like she's this pure woman. But when she's shit canning or shit selling her movie, it's just they're probably one of the biggest corrupt money-making families in the White House. It's not very good, people. And again, it's not like I believe in the Democrats. I'm done with this system. I left America, people. 15 years ago, I left America. I just want to be left alone. But Donald Trump, he probably has Plan B ready, meaning he's purposely going to print this dollar out and he's going to get saved by his crypto investments, or he probably also has a lot of gold investments. But if you thought he was going to come in and be fiscally responsible, no, I don't think that at all. And he's also on the warpath. We'll see where this goes.
Seems like bananas, and it is. It is a national security problem. It's an economic problem.
The National Taxpayers Union is renewing its call for a balanced budget amendment, arguing it could be the strongest tool to curb what it calls Washington's chronic overspending.
Just the notion that the Congress shouldn't spend more in expenditures than it takes in tax revenues each and every year. That's basically the premise that most families abide by.
A recent National Taxpayers Union poll found a majority of Americans, 54%, say cutting government spending is the best way to tackle the debt. Just 13% said raising taxes is the answer. Others are floating more unconventional solutions. Last week, Medicare and Medicaid Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz suggested the national debt could be reduced if Americans worked longer and delayed retirement.
To start working a year earlier, right out of high school, or
I don't know. I mean, the way that comes off from these rich people, you got to work harder. It just sounds, I don't know. Why don't we stop legal immigration? That's a great way to raise salaries.
Or work a year later, not retire. It would generate about $3 trillion. $3 trillion to the U.S. economy. That would more than remove the debt.
Elon Musk has argued that only artificial intelligence and automation can prevent what he calls.
It's weird. Remember the story I said in the beginning? There I am having a debate, an argument with AI Grok. And I'm telling Grok is talking to me like that. The Grok knows values. Where is this going to be in 30 years with AI? Do you think we're going to get chipped like it is in the Bible, the forehead in there? I don't know, but it really shows. But I do believe that technology and globalism are going to be part of the elements of where we're going to kill each other. We're going to do. It's just. It was a very. When I realized that, I realized that I'm getting in an argument, and I'm like, this is not a person. This is AI. This is Grok. And look how much power this Grok has over me. In the future, like, let's just take an easy example. Like, you're going to go to the DMV to get your driver's license. It might be all AI. And there you are arguing with this AI. No, my money's here. No, I passed the test here. No, you're not. And all of a sudden, you're going to start seeing people like I did today. I'm having a bit of an argument with Grok. You're going to see people arguing with AI. Where's this going? What is this going to become? But I say again, I think it could be an unstoppable path. Just like the Bible prophecies, it's unstoppable. It's going to happen.
A financial collapse.
We are 1,000% going to go bankrupt as a country and fail as a country without AI and robots. Nothing else will solve the national debt.
Musk's Department of
This is the guy, Elon Musk, where the MAGA people are like, he's awesome. I keep saying, if we're going to live in a country where we have to depend on a billionaire businessman to give us freedom of speech, what if all of a sudden he suspends you on X? Where do you go? Think about it. We're America. What type of, you would think that maybe Donald Trump, maybe there's a government platform run by the government. I know government sucks, but it is fully First Amendment to protect. But think about it. Where can you go now for free speech? I'm telling you, this guy Elon Musk, I'm literally on the, what's the word? I'm on the sideline. I don't quite know. And of course, this guy suspended me 3 times on X. But I see these MAGA people, they love Elon Musk. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not America where we have a First Amendment, where you have to depend, Google censors you, YouTube censors you, Grok on X censors you. And this is free speech. I mean, so we're going to go to war with Iran, and if we defeat Iran, then we get our First Amendment back, because we know our First Amendment's over. Do you see where this is going? I just don't see this. And again, you're talking to someone who left America 15 years ago, and just like I keep saying, America is all powerful. I still can't escape it. That's amazing. This is how powerful the American empire has become.
Government efficiency did find billions of dollars in government waste and fraud, but even he admits it's extremely difficult to cut enough waste to change the big picture national debt problem. On Capitol.
Well, this is going to be one of the reasons. Let me go to one question. J. Mitch said the European allies are trash and this and that. Yeah, I mean, what the European Union has done is talk about communism. But what I said is this. I think the best way that possibly could destroy the European Union is we as American citizens need to stop paying for the national security of Europe. Let Germany, France, and let them pay for it. If that happens, their entire fiscal system, political system, it could cause a collapse in the European Union. Sounds like a good idea to me. But either way, like I said, it's sort of like China. I don't have a problem with the Europeans. I mean, I still believe we should respect our European brothers. Our biggest thing is we need to stop paying for NATO. Let them pay for it. Once that happens, you're going to see a cataclysm. Like, for instance, I'm surprised Trump didn't even say, oh, really, you got a problem with me, Europe? He should just start closing military bases in Europe. Just close them. Send them back to America. I mean, the ripple effect in Europe, but you want to know what? It's sort of like taking the hard medicine. Let the Europeans, which are our brothers, I still view them as our brother, let them take the hard medicine. I believe it could be so painful that it could collapse the European Union. Sounds like a plan to me. I could care less. But I still look at them. I still look at Europe as our allies, and even with Russia too. Even though I see much more alignment with Russia than China. Why? Russians, they are Europeans. They are Christians. The Freedom Park could be a little bit of a debate, but my biggest issue with Europe, our allies, you could say, and what I agree with Trump is American taxpayer money needs to stop protecting Europe. It is time for the Europeans to protect themselves. And I think Trump should even show them that he's not kidding. We should start closing some military bases in Europe, save the American taxpayer money, bring them back, and shows Europeans we're not fooling around. I think if he does it, it could be powerful enough to collapse the European Union, which would be an extremely good gift to the nationalists in Europe and let them rebuild. That's how I look at it from there. So I see J. Mitch said that. Smartphone. It's interesting, Shane, I'll say, and this is what I keep saying. If you look at leadership, there's 2 trends. There's globalism, which I'm not against globalism, but we're nationalists, but it's just a trend. And two, technology. You can't stop mankind. And when I hear Elon Musk say, hey, we want to go to the moon, we want to go to Mars, we get it. That's who we are as human beings. We want to explore. But we also have to know that this technology, this globalism, what does it lead? Here's a great example. We've always had in the history of mankind tyranny of men wanting power. We had it before with the kings, the Chinese emperors, but now with technology, like if you go back to America, like even in the early 1900s, you've probably heard of Rockefeller, the oil titans, Carnegie. Oh my God, those guys were friggin' tyrants. But back then, their source of power, their level, I would probably say would be limited to America. Now with technology, look at a guy named Jeff Bezos with Amazon. Now with technology, these tyrants now truly control the globe now. I mean, they've become globalists. And where is this going? That even on X now, I'm a paid subscriber on X. I'm not going to pay anymore. Once this subscription is over, I'm not going to pay. I'm having an argument with Grok, AI, like help. Like, where are the people? What is this technology going to do? Sooner or later, you're going to have a smaller group of oligarchies using technology, and they're going to control the mass. So now it's weird. When I still remember in high school when my classmate was telling me about the mark of the beast, I have to admit, it sounded crazy because we didn't even have cell phones back then. We didn't even have computers. So it just sounded like, I was like, I don't know, man. It sounds like sci-fi. Are you kidding me now? I mean, where do you go without your cell phone now? It's almost as if our cell phone with all our information, banking information, whatever, it's almost attached to our head. It's like the only time you don't have your cell phone on is if you're taking a shower or you're going for a swim. Even you go to the gym, it's there. So sooner or later, this technology is going to be more and more important. Like we don't want to lose our phone, then we're probably just going to get ourselves chipped. Just like the people didn't mind getting the COVID vaccine. They're like, hey, just give me the COVID vaccine. I want to be a sheep. I think we are going to get chipped, but it's amazing how I've changed my mind since I was a child, and I've seen technology now, and I've seen the control. It's going to happen. So when people talk about Civil War and World War III, it's probably going to happen, but is it really going to be for our freedoms? It's probably going to continue to keep those in power. Because really, think about it. Did Afghanistan and Iraq, if you're an American patriot, how did Afghanistan and Iraq help you in your life? Did it give you more freedom? Saddam Hussein has been killed. He hung himself, or no, he got hung, whatever, he was executed. Did that give you more freedom in America? Did that increase your economic prosperity? Did that increase Christianity in America? Did that increase the European culture of the people? Not really. I don't know what the hell it accomplished, except giving more money to the people that empower us. Same thing with Afghanistan. I don't think Venezuela, and if we get any oil from Venezuela, meaning we steal it, it's probably not going to go to us. So what is this war with China going to be? I don't know. I mean, you want to do it. I'm not going to go in any of these wars, so I guess you're going to have to die for them. I've lived in Taiwan. It's a nice place. I think Taiwan is really cool. It's sort of like Japan. I'm not going to die for the Taiwanese, though. And there's more stories that a lot of people still don't get Taiwan, and I'm definitely not going to give my money for it. So you have to ask yourself, it's going in that direction. We're going to go to war. But is it really going to help out the common American person? Probably not. I don't think at all. It never really does. But I think that's where we're going. Let me see any last comment here. George Bush said that they hate us for their free. I got to do this. Shane said I have to. I'm going to save it the next time. I'm going to tell you the story in the FBI. It was about what Shane said, and it got my eyes open because let's just end it here, and I'll do the next video. My view on World War II with Adolf Hitler, with the Holocaust, with the Nazis is very simple. I don't believe we know the truth. I don't believe we know the truth. And the reason I'm saying that is take an event that happened in our lifetime, that happened on American soil, that happened with all the technology of recordings, everything, and that's 9/11. And what do I say? The same thing I said about World War II is I'm saying about 9/11. I don't think we know the truth. Now, I don't need to get in any conspiracy theories. I'm not going to argue with you, but all I'm saying is what we were told of 9/11, I don't believe it. What we were told of World War II, I don't believe it. I don't believe we know the truth. I'm not going to say what direction or the other. I'll leave that to the audience, and but I don't. But I'm going to tell you a story, and it'll be the next video of my time in the FBI where I started thinking something's weird about 9/11. But if we don't even have confidence on what happened in 9/11, which happened, like 30 years ago or some 25 years ago, on our soil with all the technology we have now, you're telling me I'm going to believe all these stories that happened, like 90 years ago or something, back in World War II and in other continents where there wasn't all this technology to record it? No way. Not going to believe it. But I do believe in human history, and human history does repeat. And what do I believe is going to repeat? The same thing I said this video. Civil War and or World War III. It's possible our country, because our government knows a civil war's coming, they might do a pivot. And that pivot could be so big, it's World War III. And the typical American, it's been caught because they just want survival. They would originally thought that the danger is from within, but then the government says, no, we're in World War III. You need to be a patriot. The enemy's overseas. And I think a lot of Americans would agree with it. And then we're going to get World War III. Who's going to die? I don't know. With technology now, it's to the point that I keep saying thank military veterans for their service, but I think this is where, again, the Terminator movies come in. It might be in the future, they don't need men anymore to serve in the military. They just have some officers, and everything else, it could be digital, it could be electronic, it could be technology, it could be like the Terminator movies. I mean, we're already seeing that to some extent in the Ukrainian war with drones. You don't think that's going to develop? How is that going to be when now you have governments having full standing armies that are robotic, that will just kill, and they don't need to depend on men to enlist in the military? That's a lot of power. That's a lot of power to get in wars. Now it makes you think like the Terminator movie we saw was fake. I don't know. You don't think it's coming? I probably think it's coming. But this is maybe more and more why you probably should go to church and study Bible prophecies. They're probably coming more and more. Let me just go last one. The Oklahoma was a cover-up. There's a lot of things. I really do think, in my case alone, I've realized how much the government is covering up. That just from my microcosm, how much the government is covering up, what does that make you think about other things? They don't care. I mean, I look again to the Pat Tillman story. I think Pat Tillman was, whoa, what a patriot. It's so obvious how they covered that up. It's to the point. And then they look at China or Russia as corrupt governments. I don't know. America, it's getting worse in America. It's getting worse and worse and worse to the point I left. Last one, at least 9/11 was perpetrated by the Saudis, Israelis. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with anything like that. Yeah, the better stock. We'll see. Anyway, David Baumblatt from Terrabin Leadership, I appreciate your support. But I say again, you know something's coming. Every American knows something's coming, either domestically or some type of World War III. We all know that this system is collapsing. Even the other powers have said that there's a new world order. Even the Europeans know it, that the world is going to change. The question is, who's going to be the winners? Who's going to be the losers? Because it's going to happen. We know that. And I think it's going to happen sooner than you think. And I do think a lot of people are going to be in very, very painful times. And I do think other people, to include our corrupt government, are going to make a lot of money out of this. And that's just the way it is. David Baumblatt from Terrabin Leadership, I appreciate your support. Lead to victory.